Okay, so the weather is getting chilly. Therefore, I must make chili. I have all the ingredients here. I'm not following a recipe, and I don't really know how traditional this is. In fact, it's definitely not traditional, but this is just generally what I do when I make chili. It's not gonna be ideal because of the fact that I didn't get to buy any sort of like fake ground meat. I usually like to buy some kind of either Beyond or Impossible, and this might be weird, but I want to put tofu in it. And I've never actually done this, but I know that if you crumble up tofu and you season it the right way and you crisp it up, I know that it can be sort of resembling ground meat. And I have my beans. We're also putting some lentils in. We're gonna see how this turns out. All right, this requires no chopping of veggies, which I'm personally a fan of, but there will be a lot of like opening cans, rinsing beans, and then a lot of stirring in the pot. But overall, I feel like this will be not that difficult of a recipe. And by the way, this is some apple cider that I have here. It's very fitting for the season right now. All right, so I'm gonna start with the tofu. Squeezing out as much of the water as I can. I've actually decided I want to prepare everything before I start cooking stuff because that really stresses me out when I start cooking stuff and then I have to like chop stuff in the meantime because then stuff burns and I don't like that. So I'm gonna start opening the cans. I'm also not entirely sure how much to put of each ingredient considering the size of pot that I'm gonna aim to use. All right, I think that does it for all the cans, but I gotta rinse out the beans. Oh no. Kidney beans are huge, honestly. It's kind of surprising. I'm also rinsing the lentils. All right, gotta take you over here. Now I'm gonna start cooking the tofu first to try and crisp it up a decent amount, and then I'll add everything else. I'm adding a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Now I'm crumbling up the tofu into pretty small pieces because we want like kind of small chunks of it to mimic ground beef. And I've got to start stirring it pretty fast so that it doesn't stick to the bottom. I also think here is where I should add this chili seasoning mix. I'm actually gonna add like a little bit more oil because I realized that this might need it. And also when you think about how oily most chilies are because of the meat, I feel like it makes sense. That's what the tofu looks like. I feel like it kind of looks like ground meat, so it kind of works. All right, at this point, I think the tofu is getting crisped up enough for me to start adding all of the rest of the ingredients. I'm adding a big thing of crushed tomatoes. Can of diced tomatoes. I'm adding all these beans now. Adding a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste. Now I'm adding some frozen corn. And I'm also adding some frozen spinach. Just because I feel like this makes it healthier and it needs some kind of green so that it's less heavy on the tomato and beans. Little extra salt and pepper. And a little extra cumin because that's my favorite spice. Gotta mix it all together now. I feel like this was the perfect sized pot because I can't really fit anything more in it. I'm also adding a bit of nutritional yeast, which might seem weird, but this will give it some cheesy umami flavor. All right, so now that I've added all of the ingredients, the key is just to let this simmer for like, I don't know, at least another 10 minutes probably. And then I think it's pretty much done. I can't really think of any other ingredients to add. So yeah, I'll see you in 10 minutes. All right, so you might be wondering why I'm wearing different clothes now, and I'll tell you why. Last night, before I got to try the food, my family got home, and I don't want to film in front of other people. They don't even know that I make cooking videos. And now it's the next morning, and I will film this at least. Pardon my bedhead, by the way. Anyway, time to try it. I put some vegan cheese from Aldi on top. They only had mozzarella, so that's obviously not ideal. I would prefer like cheddar, but it's like, okay, I'm not that picky. I don't care if it's mozzarella. Usually I also like to put like vegan sour cream in my chili, but I couldn't find that at the store I was at, so it's not a big deal. And I also like to eat my chili with tortilla chips, but I'm gonna start out with just eating it normal. Okay, so I think this is really good. I feel like it could use more flavor somehow, but I don't think it's the amount of salt. I think the amount of salt is good. The cheese that I added adds a nice extra amount of salt and like fattiness as well. Honestly, I think it's the tofu that adds just like a wateriness to it. Tofu in general is usually very watery. I probably, if I was gonna use tofu, I should have used a super firm block. I feel like it could use even more of the chili seasoning, like chili powder and paprika. It's like barely spicy, and that's saying something coming from me as someone who's pretty sensitive to spice. The beans and the lentils and the corn, I think, are good. The spinach is also good. It doesn't actually do that much, but it's a good source of, you know, iron and other nutrients. So it doesn't hurt to have that in there. And I probably could have added like extra garlic and onion powder. It's very good with the chips. Would I say that it's better today than it was last night? I don't think so. To me, it feels just as good as it was last night. Overall, I'd probably give this like 7 out of 10, maybe. Although that feels kind of low because it is still really good and it's at least like really healthy this way. So maybe it deserves like a 7.5, but it's probably not an 8 out of 10. That feels too high. Overall, I am really happy with it, and I'm looking forward to eating this throughout the week because I made a lot of it. And I guess that's all I have to say. Peace out.